Welcome back to another episode of Game Audio Dev React. My name's Adam, and today we're going to be playing Among Us. As always, please make sure to like and subscribe to appease the algorithm gods, and let's get straight into the video. We are so back right now. Yeah, it's been a long time actually since I played Among Us. I mean, I think the height of me playing this was during lockdown, but I think it's really understated just how impactful the sound design in this game is. I think no one really talks about it. The sounds have entered like the cultural zeitgeist. They are genuinely like so much bigger than the game. Like the we'll get into it, but there are so many sounds in this game that I think people take for granted these days, and I'm very, very excited to check it out. So let's get straight back into it. Firstly, let's focus on the Foley. I think this game does a great job of really selling that sense of space. They're going to think I'm sus for just hanging around like this. Oh my god, they're quick. Interesting UI sounds there. Pitch variation on those bubble popping sounds. You can literally just get that by going like... That's all that is usually. Super useful. Hard pan to the left. Nice. I like that typewriter sound there as well. That's cool. Or like I guess like a fax machine. Yep. Oh. Not getting quite as much Foley in here from the footsteps. Oh, it's so iconic. Again, super iconic. The more I hear it, I've forgotten how sort of intrusive that low engine humming sound is. Like, it's just there all the time. I think it's a little nauseating, actually. Nice. Well... Not nice, we booted the wrong guy. But yeah, using that sense of hard pan I think really helps with conveying that sense of space. More than just having if it was straight on. I think it really sort of tells you where the sounds were coming from, obviously, but yeah, sounds good. Hopefully I can finally get a single task done. There we go. Ooh, that task completed sound again. It's so nice, so iconic sounding. They're going to think I'm sus. Oh, shucks. What am I doing? Admin. Wait, am I an imposter? Okay. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Right, we have a task in here, surely. What is that task? Venting? Nice. Again, there's pitch variation on those sounds. Quite straight. Whoa! Whoa! We just saw red vent. Okay. Holy! Again, the emergency sound, emergency meeting sound is so good. So iconic. Oh! Okay. Again, nice synthy sound there for the victory theme. Okay, that's all new. Nice. Also, it should be noted as well, I was checking out this game on Steam, and like the game is like 900 megabytes all in. So like I've thought from time to time, like, oh, maybe the sound fidelity on some of these sounds isn't the best, but I'm like, the entire game is squished down so it can be played on, I was gonna say Switch, but even better, like mobile, you know? So yeah, it sounds really cool. Okay, so we're gonna go into just like a solo game mode, just so we can see the environments, see what they sound like. The sound design in this game generally is quite bare bones, I would say. Intentionally. Now I think in this case, let's just try and find a few tasks and a few sort of areas of interest just to see sort of generally what the sounds are. Ooh, little AOL sounds there. Some EMF sounds in there as well. I like the sound of the footsteps. They sound kind of hollow. And again, with a game this stylized, you can get away with loads of different things. So technically, the sound that you're hearing is like a dial-up sound, which is for like commercial phone and broadband, but wouldn't get that in this space. But however, it sounds very... Oh my gosh. So this is really interesting. So it's using like a pulsing loop sound itself as the environment, and it sounds like that's on a very short loop, and they can completely get away with that because it's such a rhythmic pulsing sound. It sounds like they've got some like random one shots in the ambience layer just being fired there. Really cool. It's not... I feel like I'm hearing it popping a little bit though. So it sounds like it's hitting that like zero crossing... What's the terminology? It's hitting that... Yeah, it's hitting that zero crossing point where it's like popping in because there isn't enough of a fade in at the beginning or the end of the sound. Sounds cool either way. Let's see what this one's like. Interesting. So it sounds like they've got two separate sounds there, no pitch variation, and it's like the positive sound is one tone and the negative sounds, or the sort of plateauing neutral sounds, is another. So that's cool. Little fade in between the zones there. So that is where you would use... if they used Fmod for this, for example, they'd use the ADSR filter, which is attack, decay, sustain, release, and it just means that you can fade things in and out rather than having it be really abrupt. Nice. Cool reverb in those sections there. Nice. And because we're not hearing anything, it really sells that use of silence to create tension in the environment. Nice. I can imagine if you're being chased down that corridor, hearing no sounds other than your footsteps and the suspected enemy's footsteps. That could be really scary. Again, EMF or like buzzing sounds there. Ooh. Can I open that again? Really cool. Really cool. Yeah, so a lot of the time for those like airlock sounds, you'll get like deodorant cans or any kind of like aerosols. You'll spray them. There's like servos as well that get used, like the mechanical moving of different metal parts sometimes. You get it a lot with like the boot of a car. Let's say if you were to open that and record it, there's like the hydraulic arm extension that connects to the boot to the actual car itself. Usually they're really good for that sort of thing, but honestly you can get away with literally just a deodorant like sort of sound, or just noise itself. You can literally just use noise, but it's really effective for those kind of sounds. It's cool that they've got so many different sounds going on, given that the entire game is less than 1 gigabyte. You know, that's really impressive. Now the spread of those sounds is a little strange. So you pick it up and it sounds very front and center. And then you put it down and suddenly it's like really wide, really here, you know? Strange. Cool task. Okay. This room sounds, or it looks like it's going to sound cool. So I don't know whether this is on an asset level or whether it's just an effect in the middleware or however they've implemented this. However, it sounds like there's like some kind of tremolo, some sense of movement to the sound for this spinning object there. Sounds really cool. If the game is this small and the sound stays the same, I don't think there's much reason to have that happening live in Fmod. Let's say that they use on this. It would be a lot cheaper or less expensive on the hardware to just have that like rendered and baked into the asset itself in the loop. But yeah, let's see. That would be what I think is going on here. It's a little difficult actually now I'm playing this because it's so iconic. It's almost hard to like think of it another way, but yeah, I wonder if there could be some sort of electrical current sounds going on this task here, let's say. Because there's no audio sort of stimuli for these areas. Yeah, this is classic. Yeah, working on sci-fi games, really cool. Yep, heart rate monitor, beeping, that sort of thing. Sounds cool. I like the sound of this room. I will say though, it seems a little bit random in terms of the room size of, you know, of what we're hearing, because this sounds like a really big room compared to the one we were just in, but this is visually a lot smaller. So, again, nitpicky to be honest, but yeah, that's by the by. Nice. Right, let's try this other map. So this is Polis. I don't believe I've played any of these newer maps since. I've only played the first two, like the first one that it launched with and then the second one that came out afterwards. So that is the last time I played it. So yeah, let's give this a bit of a check. So this makes sense. So these rooms aren't cordoned off with some sort of airlock or anything like that. So we're hearing the same ambience, which makes sense. I'm curious to see whether the ambience in the later maps sound better than the first couple. You do get that sometimes, especially with... I don't know if this game is specifically classed as a live service game, but you do see that where like the newer stuff can be better than the older stuff just because of the time in which it came out. Nice. So what they'll be... Ooh, this sounds cool. Like a vent area. Yeah, what they'll be doing for the decontamination thing, you could hear that was a loop. And effectively, it's like it's a bit like a sandwich in the sense that you'll have a start sound, like an intro to the loop. You'll have the loop itself, which will just be going over and over. And then when you go to leave whatever area, you'll do an exit loop. So if you're falling, so let's say another example of things I've done in the past where you're falling from a great height. So you'll have that intro whoosh sound to start the falling loop, the falling sounds loop. Within the loop itself, you'll have things like foley and wind flapping movements, that sort of thing. And then when you hit the ground, or when you stop falling, you play an exit loop. And it basically, you keep this big loop in the middle, and then you sort of, I guess, fade it in and out with the intro and exit loops. So that's generally what happens, and that is what's happening here. So we'll do it again, just so we can hear out for it. Intro. So you heard the intro with the loop and then it stops. It's a little messy the way it does it here, just because whatever, but that's generally the idea of how you would get a looping sound. And I haven't mentioned this in previous videos, but for anyone who isn't aware, a looping sound, the easiest way to do it, if you're taking something like this sound we're hearing, if it's a 20-second not looping clip, you just take the back, cut it in, well, you take the clip, cut it maybe in half, put the back at the front, blend the two together, and then you have a perfectly looping sound. The main finesse there is to just make sure that the middle crossover where it meets the back end of the clip meets the front end of the clip, just make sure it blends nicely, and that's generally the way people do it. It's really quick, really easy. There's loads of scripts as well that you can use to help in Reaper, but yes. Yeah, so I'm noticing a difference already in the ambience. They fade together really nicely compared to the first two maps. So it fades in and out really nicely. It's nice. That is a nice touch. I think those door sounds there, I think they're a little too loud, maybe a bit too spatial compared to everything else. Let's listen to this for a moment. Yeah, I'm hearing some nice splashing one-shots there. Okay. Now, here's an interesting one. So I said these are one-shots, but the more I hear it, I'm hearing a repeated pattern. I'm not convinced that this actually is one-shots. I think this is a pre-baked loop with a bunch of random sounds on it, which is by far the cheapest way of doing that, rather than having this one room in this entire map to have multiple different one-shots when a game is this small in file size. So, yep, that would be a wise way to do it. Like the sound of those electrical whirring things. Ooh, what's that like pitch sound there? Kind of sounds like a sonar submarine sound, you know? Very cool. Huh. The fade out on that was really strange. So interesting. Okay, so based on what we've just seen, it sounds like there are specific trigger boxes set up when you go from one room to another. I wasn't sure if it'd be more like systematized than that, but basically, long story short, there will be a box that you have to cross. As soon as you cross it, it will change the ambience from this to another, which makes sense why we're not hearing any bleed from one room to another. It is literally one on, then off, then we hear the next one on, then off. Again, keeping it cheap and really like resourceful. Ow. Yeah. Sounds like we haven't hit that trigger point yet. So we enter this room, start straight away. It will be the entire space of this room, I would assume. Trigger box here and a trigger box here. There's no other way out of this room, I believe. But even if there was, there's ways around it. But there will be a big box or triggers here and here. One of the two, or probably both. We'll see. But yeah, we leave. In fact, that trigger might be higher than I thought. Yeah, so it'll be right on that line there where basically that blue is. So, but you go here, and it doesn't actually trigger that next ambience, because the trigger must be somewhere here. Wow, okay. There we go. So that trigger is about here. Again, not a huge thing. Like, I don't know how many other people have noticed that. So, you know, who cares? But yeah, just an interesting one there. Now, that's even more interesting. I thought that sound would have been this corridor, but it sounds like that is this rocket? Question mark? Interesting. That's fenced off. Right, okay. This is even more confusing. Right, so it's a chain link fence. Let's put the okay, creative liberties and whatnot. We're hearing sounds outside in space. Why am I not hearing that rocket here through the chain link fence? But I'm hearing it here in a door that is not closed. I'm hearing it there, but I'm not hearing it here. Among Us. Now that's creepy. Ah, I thought I was hearing footsteps. That'll be the lava here. That's cool. That would be an interesting touch to have some random footsteps playing that weren't actually coming from somewhere. I have no idea what that one's all about. Okay, right. Let's look at some of these other abilities. Interesting. So those visual effects in the first place would have been cool to get some kind of whooshing sound. The sounds that we did hear sounded very low sample rate there compared to some of the other stuff we're hearing. They're low sample rate, but they're sent through the reverb, which isn't low sample rate. So what that means is you're putting a sound that hasn't got as much of its data intact, but you're sending it through something that has, so you're hearing all those digital artifacting assets, those elements of the sound that are digitally sort of distorting and just not there. And you're hearing them through this very clear reverb sound. So I try to avoid that where I can. In those cases, bake the reverb in, because it's a dead giveaway. Let's vent. Let's try that first. Oh. There's no sound. Okay, so there is some, I guess, crumbling sounds there, like some low pass elements to suggest that the player is under the ground. It's a nice easy way to do it. Just take off the lower elements of the sound and you get what sounds like a muffled underground sound. Yeah, I'm surprised there's no, considering it's a thing for it's like a core gameplay element, I'm surprised there's no sound for entering the vent, even if it's just something that the player hears and not others hear. I do recall hearing vents in the other levels though, so maybe it's just that particular tunnel in the ground doesn't have sounds. Nice, really cool electrical sounds there. Yeah, I'm hearing some like pitch variation and whatnot, some randomness there. So yeah, they're definitely randomly triggered in the level. But yeah, let's try and assassinate someone. Really cool, really iconic. Let's be honest. Ooh. And again, so obviously we're seeing bats here, but this is a still environment, but we're hearing wind blowing, birds singing, a bunch of different things going on there. And again, you get such creative liberties, and I think a lot of the time it's kind of unspoken, but the sound design needs to do a load of the heavy lifting in a game where the visuals can't exactly show what's supposed to be happening. So here, we know that we're in this nature room here. It's supposed to be relaxing and like the countryside, and that is portrayed here by the sounds that we're hearing, even though we're not seeing it. So you hear that a lot, especially in a game where there's like things that are suggested, but that you're just not seeing it. The sound design needs to do all the heavy lifting. So, okay, this is the airship. Okay, immediately, I love this sound. Oh, I could listen to these like industrial air vent sounds all day. It's so satisfying. Just like scratches my brain. Ooh. So they have done one of two things there. I'm going to take a guess. So it's still the same triggering as we've seen in other sections of the game. So still triggering as normal. They have either got a consistent musical undertone here, like that low rumbly sound that we hear just in this next room. And we're hearing that. And either that is playing, let's say everywhere in this case, and they've used electrical whirring in the same key, same tone to make it blend more seamlessly, or they have this one big asset that they've split up into stems to use bits and pieces of it here and there. Either way, it adds for this really nice sense of cohesion because you're hearing almost like this singing from the ship itself, like this natural resonance that it seems to have. Let's see if we can find some. I heard something pop then. Yep, I heard it pop again then. Now, I wonder if this is just the loop itself is popping, or whether they have it change when going through these rooms, which would make no sense because they sound the same. So this is one of those cases where we're seeing distance attenuation, where I don't think we've actually seen or heard that so far. So the closer you are to something, the louder you hear it, but it kind of gets filtered and becomes quieter over distance. So as we approach this thing, we're hearing it get louder and louder. Ooh, a ladder sound. I don't think we've seen ladders yet. So yeah, we're definitely seeing some technical advancements with these later levels. This is really nice. It's like a song almost. We're hearing it in stems. That is really nice. Kind of cuts off a little abruptly for a second there. Whoa! Now, if there was a giant airlock here, it would make sense for that sound to immediately pop in. But as there isn't, it's currently a little surprising. Now hearing this outside sound, these rotor, like the blades of the airship, that is the sound that we're hearing. It's the same pitch, same resonance. It's all making that really consistent tone, and that completely explains, in the context, where this giant like humming sound is coming from. Which is a really nice touch. It's a little obvious on the pitch variation on the footsteps there, but it's nice nonetheless. That'll be some kind of gravel sound that they would have used for that. Nice. There's attenuation on that water. Sounds cool. Oh, they do have water footsteps. Sounds really cool. I'm hearing a lot of popping here. It might even be on those footstep sounds, to be honest. It's really like clicky sound sort of up here somewhere. Yeah, it's definitely on those footsteps itself. Yeah, I mentioned about like things being expensive, but wouldn't really come into it in this case. I think just making sure that you're not hitting those zero crossing points too sharply is the way to fix that. This area sounds really cool. Oh my word, that is a sharp sound, holy. Interesting. It's kind of a sword swiping sound there. Okay. Cool electrical beeping sound there, like that. Ooh, there's a few interesting sounds there. Yeah, doing zip wire sounds is an interesting one. I've had the chance to do them a couple of times, and I much prefer them on the way up. I'm not sure about that like slapping sound at the very end. I use guitar strings quite a lot, to be honest. You can kind of like wrap guitar strings across one another. Sometimes you can get like a coat hanger and just like scrape it along it really slowly. A bunch of other stuff as well. You can use like tape measures or that sort of thing. A bunch of different elements to add together to make it sound very convincing, you know? That kind of sounds more like a siren. Or, I mean, you could maybe even use like the sound of retracting the cable in a Hoover, you know, like a vacuum cleaner, for the non-Brits. Yeah, you could probably do something like that. Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to do it, really. And that is just about going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and to appease the algorithm gods, please make sure to comment down below what games you'd like me to see to cover next. And yeah, take care. Bye.